We are always thinking and wondering technology, and joining us for Tech Talk is Matt Dickerson. How are you, Matt?
That's excellent. I'm glad to hear you're always thinking about technology, Chris. I'm slowly having an influence on you, I think.
Yes, I think you might be. Now listen, battery charging speed is one reason the uptake of electric cars is slow. What are the claimed recharging speeds with the latest battery technology?
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of work going on around the world on this particular issue, Chris. This is really the holy grail. If manufacturers can crack the faster recharging times and better ability to have a longer life in a battery, then that's where we'll really see things like cars take off. But we use batteries in so many things now with our cameras, our phones, just about everything is running on battery power. And the latest claim by some researchers out of Korea, actually, is that they can get a recharge of a battery 90%, 0 to 90% in 6 minutes. Now, there are a few things around that. Obviously, part of that process is the size of the battery, but they're talking about a normal car-sized battery. So you're talking about something like the latest Teslas have 100 kilowatt-hour batteries, so they're talking about 90% charge in 6 minutes. And when you think about how long it takes you to stand at the petrol bowser and fill up at the bowser and go in and pay for your petrol, then I don't know anyone that can do that in under 6 minutes. So if you can get to that sort of time, that's pretty impressive. The other part of it is the ability to discharge quickly. Now, you might think that sounds like a bad thing because you obviously want the battery to stay as charged for as long as possible. But one of the things that battery manufacturers are trying to do is safely discharge a battery quickly, which means you can have a large amount of power in a short period of time. And so for various things, not just cars, but for various things, that can be handy to have a large amount of power available to you. And that's the other thing that these researchers are talking about. They can discharge these batteries 54% in 18 seconds. So you can imagine if you had a car fully charged, if you really wanted a quick burst of power, you could get an incredible burst of power out of that sort of charge. So it's quite interesting. These aren't available yet. This is all research being done. An organisation called POSTECH is doing this research, but this is just one of many across the world that we'll see coming up, Chris, where we'll get better and better batteries.
Now, I was thinking about this very topic yesterday. When is the last time you had a full body scan for skin cancer?
It's something that I've done over the years, Chris, where I've gone along and had my body checked out for skin cancers, regular checkups. But with COVID, obviously, people aren't going to the doctor as much as they used to. And the figures, and these are out of the US, is that people going for cancer screenings have been down 94% during the COVID period that we've seen from, say, March on towards now. And when you consider that about 1 in 5 Americans, or about 20% of Americans, are going to develop skin cancer, obviously even worse in Australia, then having some sort of body scan, is absolutely vital for our long-term health. And skin cancer is one of those cancers that early detection is really the lifesaver. Once you go too far and that melanoma gets into the rest of your body, it can spread very quickly. So we know the solution for skin cancer, and that's detection, screenings, and making sure we pick it up early. But if you can't go to the doctor, it's a bit hard. Well, there's a new app that's been introduced that basically says that you can do a full body scan with your app, which might be convenient in a pandemic. And for some people that might be a bit embarrassed about getting undressed in front of the doctor, it's not a bad solution as well. So essentially you undress in front of the camera, you take scans using this particular app, and then you do those on a regular basis. And what it's looking for is changes in your body. If you've got any particular moles or freckles or anything that you think might be interesting to look at, you can also do some close-ups on that, and again it will track changes over that particular part of the skin as it goes. You might do them every month, every 3 months, for example, but the idea is to have those regular scans, regular look at what your body is doing, and the idea is that this particular app, using some clever AI in the background, is basically trying to detect those changes and alert you to changes. Obviously, you still need to go to the doctor at some stage, Chris. The idea is you can't hold the phone near your skin and it'll suddenly fix those problems for you. It's really about catching those skin cancers early. And so there's a whole range of health things we're doing with our phones. Now, this is one of them. We're getting to the stage where we'll probably not too far away, we'll be doing things like measuring our temperature with a mobile phone. So there's a whole range of things that are happening with mobile phones at the moment and health.
Amazing. We are talking technology with Matt Dickerson. And Matt, new mobiles with LiDAR sound impressive, but give me one practical use for LiDAR right now. Now, what is LiDAR? Am I ignorant for not knowing?
No, not at all. This is the whole thing about technology. It's changes so quickly. LiDAR, L-I-D-A-R, LiDAR stands for light distancing and ranging. Laser distancing. No, it is light distancing and ranging. And so the idea is that you've got some devices now, some mobile phones, some tablets, for example, are coming out with LiDAR sensors. And the LiDAR sensor, basically what it's trying to do is measure distances to a range of objects. Now, when you see fancy launches from major manufacturers using LiDAR, what they're normally doing is showing people playing games using augmented reality. So you can actually have physical objects around you that you're using as part of the gameplay, and that's basically shown on screen in terms of that whole augmented reality, which sounds great if you're playing games, and it's a nice fancy little feature, but it's not really that practical. Well, the new iOS 14.2, which will be going on to new iPhones probably in the next 3 weeks, I'd say, before that's out, that actually uses LiDAR on some of the latest phones to let blind people or vision impaired people see, in inverted commas, others around them. And the idea is that it will give them some sort of idea. If they've got low vision, for example, they can pick up bodies and shapes and it can show them on screen, or it can use haptic feedback on their phones to actually give them some vibration when people are within a certain range. And the idea is just to make people be able to get out amongst society if they're vision impaired and be able to be more able to get around without having to have someone with them all the time, or without having their seeing eye dog, for example, around them. So you could use it in shopping centres, use it walking down the street. Anywhere you might see that it might be important to be able to virtually see people, then LiDAR on your phone could be used. And you might think someone's being a bit rude, Chris, because they're walking along holding their phone up while they're doing it, but obviously the scanner is on the back of the phone, so they need to have their phone up out of their pocket while they're walking along. So when you see someone like that in the future, you might think they're being rude, but they might actually just be using that LiDAR feature to see other people around them.
Okay, fair enough. Learned something today. Now, what is the latest job for Spot the robot dog?
I love Spot the robot dog. I remember seeing the first video of Spot the robot dog going through a door while a person's pulling him back, and it was quite incredible, the robot intelligence and the AI on the robot to be able to actually get around what humans are trying to do. Wow. And so Spot's got himself a new job, and in this economy at the moment, it's pretty good if he can get a new job, but he's got a job at Chernobyl. He's actually walking around Chernobyl as we speak, doing a whole range of radiation testing. Obviously, inside Chernobyl, the whole exclusion zone there is not a nice place for humans to be. There have been various bits of technology employed to try and measure radiation zones to see if it's safe. The reactor's obviously covered up with a huge shell that's good for, I can't remember, probably a couple of 100 years before that will need to be replaced again. But trying to work out how far away from the reactor you can be, and to see the spread of radiation within that actual radiation zone is incredibly important. So Spot is obviously wandering around there, measuring radiation to see how it is, where it's infiltrated, and to get an idea for these things that might happen in the future, so that scientists are in a much better position to be able to work out how this can be prevented in the future. It isn't actually the first time a dog or some sort of robot's been used. The 3 Mile Island nuclear reactor incident back that was in the late 70s, they had some robotics there to go in and do some of the cleanup work. Obviously the difference there is the robots were nowhere near as advanced as they are now. So Spot's out there doing some good work for us as we sit here right now, Chris.
All right, Matt. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Now, of course, you've got your YouTube channel and people can search Matt Dickerson there. We will talk again next time next week. Thanks, Matt.
Sounds great, Chris. Look forward to it.